as you know, the first explanation, I don't know if say lecture, explanation,
Your speech.
is by Carlos Crozas. He's from the Department of Urbanism in Barcelona. You know, this school is organized by the school is vertical. The departments are with you have urbanism, technological, design. So this is horizontal. So the school goes this way. The departments are from the University Polytechnic of Catalonia, so it's the departments, the centers, the schools do this way. So Carles from the Department of Urbanism and the School of Architecture Barcelona will explain you about something you want to know about, which is Barcelona. So let's go on.
Thank you, Felix. I was wondering if I can remove.
You have to
I can remove my mask.
speak. Yes, please. Can
Yeah.
you speak
No,
louder?
that's not so evident. I mean, we are
He's
we
the
are
only
struggling.
one.
Okay.
We are all fascinated.
Yes.
Okay. No. That's. I mean, it's the local rules that are still very strict, and we are always teaching with our masks. So, good morning, everybody. It's not my role today to welcome you, but my colleague Felix Arran did. And I would like to control my time because it's 30 minutes, and try to explain something that is impossible to explain in 30 minutes. That is talking about urban design in Barcelona. You know that our city is quite well known and recognized regarding urban design issues. As it is not as it is quite difficult, and on the one side it's difficult to make it short. On the other side, we know that you have been prepared. You are familiar with this book, probably, that is the 10 lessons on Barcelona from our master Manuel de Solà Morales. I tried to prepare something for this occasion that was different. That was talking about intersections. Intersections are common places, and as I don't have time, and I guess that you don't need my speech to understand the contents regarding the 10 lessons. That is a book very well explained and illustrated that we Manuel prepared during the 2006 or 7. I was working and collaborating in this edition. I tried to mix. That's a bit biographic, but it's all about Manuel Solà. So it's a kind of homage to our master. So it's not, the title is not from my own, but it's from Manuel. That is, some years before, in 2002, I started collaborating with Manuel Solà, editing this kind of book that was not a book, but it was an important exhibition in an international event held in Barcelona, in which Manuel, with an incredible board with Richard Sennett, Rydberg, and many prominent professors, define the corner or use the corner and the intersection as a kind of metaphor to link or to express certain values of the city. And probably this can be explained like coincidence in this sentence. Coincidence and difference are the ideas that define the corner. These characteristics also define the city, more than order, unity, or regularity. So I would invite you to take this definition that probably will help us to follow this kind of appetizer, because it's only an appetizer, to some urban design issues going from the past to present and to the current challenges of the city. These are some of the, the approaches, the very different approaches we elaborate for this occasion. I will not explain properly the history of the city, just to have a general overview, just to know that our city has more or less 2,000 years, starting from Romans. Of course, we have previous remains, as everywhere, but the Roman city was the Barsino, so was the first important urban settlement. Then our city is connotated by a kind of medieval splendor. You know a lot about that because you are from Europe, so it's the same situation in many cities. You are familiar with this image, and we pass by very quickly. That is the modern city. How Barcelona or the current city was possible through like the important project in the mid 19th century, and then also the common history in many cities and capitals in Europe and worldwide. That is the creation of the metropolis in the 30s, and something also very specific in Spanish cities. That is like the cities that were built in the democratic period. I don't know if the light it's good. I mean, maybe Felix, podemos cerrar un poco esto. Quizá este se puede. Well, if you can try, just in order to improve the image qualities. Well, maybe not only this one. No? I didn't remember that. It's fine. It's fine. It's good. So let's on. So the impossible goal I am pursuing today is like to talk about or just to move quickly from this Barcelona, that is the old city that you are familiar with this scale of the city, that is the city of the 3.5 million inhabitants of nowadays, from the city core to the metropolitan city. Our city, as said before, I mean, has a lot to do with this condition of the city and the harbor, as many other Mediterranean capitals. So the wall, the contact with the sea, and also the economic splendor of the city that was very important in the medieval times. Medieval times, so that means mainly 13th and 14th century. And when we approach today, the configuration of this quite big old city, we have like it's 1 kilometer per 1.5 approximately. So it's a quite sound old city. It is interesting to approach to the main general features that you know. Let me see. No, I mean so La Ramblas, that used to be the oldest stream of the city. The first, I mean, you can see here the remains of the Roman wall. So that was the first wall. Then we have the second wall, and then we have the third wall. No? So like with this progressive expansion of the city. In Barcelona, in these medieval times, we had some milestones like this one that is Carrer Montcada, the carrer that is costing Picasso Museum. I don't know if it's in your excellent and vast visit, but this is one of the most notable streets that was made of these palaces and mansions that were all, I mean, that were showing like this medieval splendor with I mean, that was close to the sea. The sea is here. So Santa Maria del Mar, that is the cathedral of the sea. So that explains quite well like this past, splendorous past link with the harbor and the strength of the city, not the city of the Catalan wall in the Mediterranean area. No? And then we have seen, I mean, the Moncada Street, it's here, so it's a vertical street. But then later on, in the 15th and 16th century, there was like the opening next to the wall of this white street. This is another important street, not so important nowadays, but this is like another proof of this expansion of Barcelona. But I would like to move you very quickly to these images that explain quite well, like the first lesson in this book, that is the opening of Carrer de Ferran. Carrer de Ferran is the first modern street in Barcelona, starting in 1820s. As it is very well explained with these old postcards, it explains how this street brought to Barcelona the modernity, or the first modernity. That means modernity in the 19th century, as you know, it means to be like Paris, no? So looking at Paris as a mirror, so that means introducing shops, introducing urban lights, introducing regularity in facades. So the street is not more a path, an organic path, but starts to be an element that is designed. and that's very, very important. This is a fabulous image showing here is La Ramblas, and we have Ciutadella there, Parc de la Ciutadella, and you can see like the importance of this street. This is a cutting edge street, like a knife like incisor that is opening all that. But what I like on the lesson, on the text written by Manuel Solà, is how he explained, and that was not linked with the corners, because this text was written when I was born in the 70s, okay, and was reviewed by the author in 2006. But what is interesting is how in this lesson we know that there is a very, very crucial episode. That is how in this place where was the Decumanus and the Cardos historical, and there was like the city hall, the Casa de la Ciutat, that is the city hall. I mean, there was a main decision that is in this cutting to create a corner, a very special corner, that is how this building that is the city hall will change. The main facade was on this street, a vertical one, that is Carrer de la Ciutat, and how with the opening of Carrer Ferran, the city hall turn around and create, look, this neoclassic facade. So we have the Gothic building and the so this is crucial, and you will see it's very interesting to go close to here and to see like this is a kind of atrezzo, a facade of only family. So this is the construction of a corner. I am speeding up a bit because otherwise I will not reach the end. There is many other attempts in the city to create new corners, new centers, and the second lesson explains how Barcelona failed in the attempt to move from the city center here. You can see the Rambla, El Raval, that is the working class extension of in the whole city, and how I mean in the 19th century as well, and even before, because of the importance of the sea, the contact with water, Barcelona tried and failed to move the city center here, like with Lisboa, for example. You are probably familiar with Lisboa. So Barcelona tried to create here a new center, looking at again, with these elements. This is the sea gate, that so was the most important, or wants to be the most important gate in the city, and how Barcelona located in this area the most important facilities, buildings of the city. But despite of this effort, Barcelona, or this was an unsuccessful attempt. I will not explain why. I invite to review like the explanation on this book, and in which it is explained why this happened in the 19th century. But I mean, what's important is like I like these very nice maps from Professor Busquets in this very exhaustive analysis of the old city, in which it is interesting to see how this old city that we call the Gothic city, and it seems to be something coherent because it's from the past, has been transformed once and again. So you can see here the opening of Carrer Ferran, the opening of Plaza Real, the opening of the market of Bucaria, and many other elements, to the extent that if we look at the current issue of Ciutat Vella, we can understand that all these are transformations that took place in our relatively recent, I mean, in the few last centuries. Well, I jump to the most well-known episode in urban design in Barcelona, and it's so tedious for us to explain Cerdà's Eixample that, as you are coming from a very well-illustrated school, I will not give more than 2 words about that. And I would like to approach this from this perspective of the intersections I am trying to convince you. So, this is 1859. What is important here is like, this was the most important project, urban design project, urban planning project in the Europe, probably in the world, together with with the commissioner's plan for Manhattan. And this was, what's interesting is the scope, for example. No? You can see the old city that was defined before with the wall, still the walls were there, 1850s, and how at this moment somebody was able to envision that the city would be something extremely different size-wise. That means 10 times, tenfold. So the plan of Barcelona is tenfold the existing city at this moment. So that's for sure one of the proof of the forward-thinking capacity of Ildefons Cerdà. But looking at this idea of the intersections, you can see that this is the non-intersection plan. Well, I mean, we can simplify on this way. I mean that we have only like the super intersection. I guess that you will visit or you have already visited that in the main crossing of the three main avenues, yeah, Plaza de las Glorias. But at the end of the day, this was like the idea of the grid that means egalitarian, so no, the monotonous, the identical, the isotropic character of this space. Yeah, so that is probably the illustration of a plan done by an engineer, not an architect, that was imagining that this city should be like a perfect extension, very well calculated, very well located, but not looking at the differences, but more to the repetition, more than the difference. No? In the meanwhile, but you know that Barcelona and Madrid have been struggling, let's say, over the history. And at this moment was one of the cases because Barcelona set up at this moment an ideas competition for extension. While Madrid and Ildefons Cerdà, that was a guy very well connected with the power in Spain, was elaborating, was drafting the plan. At the same time, there was an ideas competition in Barcelona. And if we look, sorry for the quality of this image, if we look at these, for example, proposals that Recife mentioned, you will see that this idea this idea of creating difference, it's extremely different from the previous one. The first one is from an engineer as well, but this is a proposal that is born from one intersection, very clear intersection that is giving the two directions. Or this one, for example, Josep Fontserè, that gives like this idea of how can we create difference in the city? How can we create different situations? And this last one, that is a very common radial scheme, you can see, no, all these lines. That was the winning proposal. That was absolutely different as well from the Cerdà's idea of the isotropy and hyper-regularity. That creates a lot of controversy. And it was like this idea of Rovira. Rovira was the winner architect against Cerdà. That was the boring engineer that not got the prize, but got the commission. That is important because prizes, are not important, but the commissions. Yeah. So this was the idea, and I would like you to focus on some of the main components of this Cerdà's proposal, and it is the street. I would say that besides, it's not a matter of the layout, it's not a matter of the courtyards, it is a matter of the street. It is a plan of streets, simply. But look at how clever, how forward-thinking is this street. There is a very basic decision. Half in all the streets, in these dozens of streets, half of the space will be provided to pedestrians and the half to the vehicles. And this will link with our discussions in the second part of this speech. And something very important, nature must be introduced in the city. 1859, c'est pas mal. It is something something that is nowadays more important than ever. That is, what is hidden in the city is extraordinarily important. That the name of that is infrastructure. And we know that infrastructure, this is infrastructure of services, sewage system, supplying, and all that. And we have seen the trees as the green infrastructure. Now we are talking about things. So in the development of Barcelona, we can see like this basic idea that the city can be expanded through some streets that are very well located thanks to the new engineering techniques of the 19th century, and can be built in this scattering model. So I have some plots. I am the owner of this land, and I can develop my own, with not by blocks or by different pieces, but discontinuously. That is a quite modern idea. The result is, I mean, at the building level, the result is this one here. That means we have on a street, and then we have some common houses that are also like new, because it's like the multi-level housing that is being incorporated in Barcelona. But Cerdà, that even though he created like this grid monotonous, he find in each of the blocks like this particularity, this singularity that is the chamfer. No, you know very well, and this has become the image of our city. You know that the reasons for that is because of movement, because he was an engineer. He was obsessed with this idea of how railway will transform our cities. No, this is 19th century, and how there was like this geometrical solution to solve some things regarding traffic. No? And of course, this was a kind of celebration for the architects. Architects hated Cerdà, literally. The modernist architects hated Cerdà because they say, wow, an engineer that obliged all of us not to be creative, because we have to be, these houses between walls. And then the corner provide some occasions, no? You know, Gaudí introduced, this idea of the internal courtyards and some in-depth reflection on the distribution of these typologies. Some others, like Domènech i Montaner, introduced like in this half a chamfer in Paseo de Gracia, as well. You can see like this kind of Lleó Morera house. Later on in the 30s, the first modernity arrived and had certain expression with this fantastic building, Lleó Morera, that is an example of what we call noucentisme. Or later on as well, there was like these attempts to rethink the shape. No, we have seen to rethink the internal courtyards, functions, and in this case, the shape of the corner. No, that was something very, very interesting. No, by the way, this idea of this idea of looking at the grid not from the blocks, but from the nodes, was quite well explained also by Manuel de Solà Morales, 78, in a discussion with Leon Krier, and this discussion on how can we see, how we should approach, how we should understand the city of Barcelona through this idea of the corners. Without more time on insisting on that, I guess that from this perspective of the regularity and intersections, it is a must to show you this proposal that was 1905. That means 40 years later of the competition of l'Eixample, Barcelona set up another competition. That was the competition for linking the different neighborhoods of the city. The name is Pla d'Enllaços, that means links plan. And in this links plan, you can see that the winner was a French architect, that is Léon Jousselly. That I guess that this image is quite explicit of this need, this aim, this obsession to introduce like this idea of the centrality through the urban form. My recommendation would be for you to have a look at some of the books explaining all this reality very well, or for example, with a lot of images, or from Manuel de Solà, the book we edited in 2010, that is more on the theoretical approach. What has happened till then, or in the last few years, I would say that L'Eixample, the construction and the transformation of L'Eixample can be observed through different perspectives. No? For example, I guess that it's quite interesting to see how Cerdà draw the contact with the sea, no contact, as you can see, and what Barcelona did. I'm sure that you have a bike, no? I guess that you will write, no? Here. Another thing is that how streets are very important, but we have a lack of open space, public space. So it is a must to create, to look at the opportunities we have in the interior courtyards of L'Eixample. And this is another interesting approach that I'm sure that you will visit, no? How piece by piece we are able to create like mini, small pocket open spaces that can little by little contribute to make this city more green. And then something that we pay attention 10 years ago, for example, looking not only at the courtyards, but the relation between the courtyards and a new generation of mixed facilities. I guess that this is very interesting. This pays, worth a visit in some of these fantastic mixed facilities that have been designed in the last 15 years now. Another question that we will visit is like the transformation of the eastern grid, the eastern part of the grid that was the industrial grid. So L'Eixample was not homogeneous. The grid was homogeneous, but not the land use. So we are probably one of the most important episodes nowadays is in the transformation of the 22 district of Poblenou. With what is interesting here is that it is a transformation made piece by piece. So I guess that the scale of this transformation is also quite interesting. And finally, something that cannot be seen today, but will be for sure we will pay the attention in the coming years. It is like this idea of the looking for the efficiency. How in one of the most dense patterns tissues in Europe, with 400 households per block, 400. So that means more than 1,000 people living in each block. How can we reimagine in terms of sustainability and efficiency, and how can we improve? So there is like some current programs looking at that. And I would like to spend my last 10 minutes looking at what is happening now. Now means in the last half a year in Barcelona. And I would like to show you two competitions that I have shown the different competitions over the history. And I'd like to move just to announce, because we don't have time to go in there, to two discussions that are very important for the city 2020. This is the first one. I guess that we will need a lot of time. People coming in Barcelona ask me, I have an interview, by the way, in 1 hour. What do you think about Superblock program? Yeah. So this is the current leitmotif of Barcelona. And I guess that you are more or less familiar. Are you familiar with this scheme? Yeah, excellent. So I can quickly move. So this is the national. This is the idea. This is an idea. I mean, in urban design terms, it's quite controversial because it's imagining that we can apply a model in a city. The discussion of the models maybe is a bit old-fashioned, and they started with these ideas that you know quite well. So rethinking that Barcelona is not 100 by 100, 113 by 1, but that we can imagine that can be 400 by 400, no? And then how can we mix all that with a public transportation system, more efficiency? How can we imagine that we have fabulous and fantastic and friendly streets like this one, and some ugly streets? Well, that's my explanation, of course. No, this is the traffic. This is the perimeter ones, and this. So the isotropy, that was one of the main features of L'Eixample, is now very, very strongly questioned. Yeah. So the idea of the equalitarianism that represents L'Eixample, with this idea, a street A and a street B, we are radically changing that. Of course, we're having a lot of benefits, but that's important, no? how to implement a model in a city? That's impossible. In a consolidated city, in one of the most consolidated cities in Europe, that's impossible. This is a nightmare. Would have been a nightmare. How to do that? By tests. I guess that today you will walk this area here, okay? And this was the first one. You will probably have seen like this idea of the tactical urbanism. So how can we implement in the consolidated city changes? This is in 22 Act. No people is living there, so it's a good choice starting to implement changes where people is not living, because neighbors will not go against the mayor. Okay. These were like the happenings at the beginning of this initiative, and then we have like this, I would say, not canonic neither, transformation around Mercat de Sant Antoni. This is San Antonio Market. You will visit that. You were not close to the Rondas yesterday or today or with Flores Flats. Well,
yes, we were at the other side.
So this is the second attempt. I mean, mixing like the ephemeral or tactical strategies with some other ones that are more organized. No? But what is happening? What are we learning from that? That models cannot be implemented so easily. So, for example, they start saying, what if we have not two types of a street, but three? You can see type 1, type 2, type 3. Type 1, you can see. So we have to adapt because the city is there. No? And in this context, there was like this multiple competition for building like a new test, the implementation of this street, one of the horizontal streets, and then looking at the crossings. Okay, this is the competition for 4 green hubs and 4 squares in the Champla district. This is this street in this field, in this framework of green streets. And I will show very quickly like the images of the winning projects, many of them that were led by professors in this school. That's very important for our school. We are linked with reality. We are participating, luckily, still with this kind of contest. And these are like the atmospheres, no? That the discussion on the atmosphere of the street. This is more the structural, this idea of the green infrastructure. This is linked, for example, with like the contact between the chamfers and the line streets, yeah. And this is like the scope of these interventions. And at the same time, so how to rethink the street. Remember this basic section of Ildefons 160 years ago, and how we are somehow brainstorming still on that, no? And this is the other thing. I mean, the awareness of that we have in each of the chamfers one little square. You know, Barcelona has little squares like in Gracia, like in many neighborhoods you will visit. So in this case, it's San Andreu. So what if we imagine that we have one square, no, in terms for as collective space for the opportunities web. And again, some winning proposals that are trying to create like different variations on that. Also, this one, for example, from a colleague in our department, Clara Sola Morales, also teaching design, or this one, Miriam, many of them that are looking at these variations and looking at the particularity on each of these cases. And the last thing I wanted to show you, I am now in my time, is like this change of a scale. We have seen the Ciutat Vella, old city. We have seen like how we are making more. We are updating our Champla, not through a project, but through a program. That's very important. We are programming, not only designing. And how at the territorial scale, in this big Barcelona, we aim to build in the future to have, to be a European capital. We have like a new kind of intersections that will be the key elements. Okay, so we have seen the chamfers in La Champla as a key elements for for providing nature and green infrastructure to architecture, and how we can imagine on this way. And this was indeed a kind of initiative in which many of us in our department participate in initial studies, urbanistic studies for the new metropolitan master plan. Okay, an issue that was led by Joan Busquets as well, and in which many of us participate in creating like this current state. Barcelona metropolis now. What are the potentials? What are the opportunities? What are the main situation? No? And we prepare as well a big exhibition in the Hub Museum, and we're dealing with this kind of city that is completely different, and in which intersections are very important as well. And from this perspective, there were different approaches, and I would like to show you one in which I participate. I was leading. That was like not about the corners, but about the centers, areas of centrality. So how in this multi-administrative area, we can imagine what should be the value of each of the center. How can we build new corners to create a new identification with the spaces? No? And this was new, was not new. You know that we are never inventing, we are reading, reinterpreting. And there was an important plan in the 80s that was the plan for the new downtowns in Barcelona. That is quite nice to explain that the idea of the centrality that was concentrated here should be spread all around the city. So that means the benefits of the centrality cannot be only in the center, but must be must reach the peripheral areas, no? The citizenship, no? And at the metropolitan level, we were analyzing, we were understanding what are these incipient, these small centers, what are the opportunities, how can we add to create a more intense, a more efficient, a more intelligible, and also a more signified metropolis. And from this perspective, we try to put in relation some existing and some new corners or intersections with this idea more structural of the axis that can connect the central city with the territory, creating like all this kind of existing till this image that is like the constellation of intersections that must build like this idea of the metropolis. From this perspective, I'm going quickly. From this perspective was organized this competition. That is a competition. So sorry. That is a competition quite interesting, as it is asking what can we make? How can we make the most of these spaces? These are monofunctional spaces. These are the corners of the 20th century. How can we move from the 20th century to the 21st century? And from this perspective, this multi-competition was identified six different big intersections, and select with a short list of different different teams that have had to deal with these kind of situations, mixing infrastructure, public transport, green infrastructure, and new programs. Okay, so I invite also for those interested in this kind of discussion to look at these websites that are looking at the different solutions for these different spaces. No, look, no, how to reimagine the potential in these peripheral areas that will play for sure, or that have to play for sure, a very important role in the future. I was luckily participating in that, and I don't have time, and I would like to show you that, but I guess that it's much better to give the floor to give the ground to my colleagues. I wanted just to explain, to finish, sorry, with one sentence again of my master. Okay, just to clarify that I had only, I just took the walls to explain you this and gather some materials to make a strong, like the Manuel Solà messages. And this is a message from 2004, so only 18 years ago. But he was pointing out that the stations, parking lots, major facilities, terminals, interchanges, and transport nodes may well be the corners of the contemporary territory. New corners are a means of creating diversity in the territorial landscape, breaking down social ghettos, and highlighting the role of public transport. And I guess that with this great image, this is something we prepared for the exhibition, and this is an unreal city in which it is not important the discussion of a dispersed or a compact city, but what is important, the discussion of the interconnected city through public transport and through the strength of these intersections. Thank you very much. I guess I don't know. I guess that you have a very dense program, and
Yes.
now it's time for Carolina or for Enrique, I guess.
In fact, thank you very much, Carlos. While Carolina is preparing PowerPoint for the, you can come here, please. Thank you. We can receive Felix Solaburen Beascoa, which is our director of the school. Please, Felix, if you want to say hello to our.
Hi, Andrea. Welcome to the school. I'm sorry for medical problems, medical reasons. You are always welcome here.
Pues aquí así y luego puso yo el pincho. Ah, vale. Sí. No meu és més escolar-li, que diuen ells.
You have any questions? One question for Carlos
Yeah.
before proceeds.
No, I will stay here till Carolina. While Carolina is preparing the PPT,
Yes, of course.
I guess there was thousands of information. I guess that maybe we will need a lot of time, but we can join another day. You have plenty, no? You have all the. Maybe I can join you if we can match the schedule. Anyway,
Thank you very much. It was a wild ride through. And also in the future. I mean, for us, it's important to have informations because the time is short, but I think there is so much important information that you have that my question is only, can we grasp somewhere something like a condensed overview of materials that you would recommend to say, okay, this has to be known somewhere, known about what is going on.
sure. You can take from my side. You can take the PDF, the PowerPoint, from Felix or Carolina or whoever in the board of the school. I try to put all the websites. I guess that, for example, well, depending on your interest, somebody can move to one place or the other. I would say that regarding books reference is the same. You can easily find there. And if you have any doubts, please don't hesitate to contact us. Okay. But for sure, I guess that regarding the PowerPoint, it has more or less included like the materials to know a bit more about this flash I have shown with you. Okay.
To take urgent notes, you know, this explanation are streamed through YouTube, so you can get back to it another day through the YouTube way. So Carolina Garcia Estevez, she's from the theory department. We said urbanism department, we follow on with the theory department. You know, Carolina, you are the one who has allowed to take out your mask if you want. The rest of us
I
must
won't
give.
remove it. No.
If you want,
It's
okay.
more comfortable for me if you allow me to do it in this way. Yeah.
You are allowed to
Yeah.
do that if you want. No, it is better for the sound.
Yes, but I can use my,
Okay.
yes, spread my voice.
It's okay for everyone. Fantastic.
Yes.
So please, Carolina.
So thank you very much for inviting me, for giving this lecture to us. And as you will see, my period of time is not so focused in the 21st century. So I will do a travel back to the origins, to the 19th and the 20th century. So I think that it's quite strange for you to go back to the region that, as Carlos has said, many of the ideas that we see and we recognize in the 21st century is just the conclusion of the development of some others that came from very long ago. So as you can see, we are going to focus and discover the architecture in Barcelona, the history of the architecture in Barcelona, but from a very particular point of view. is the point of view that comes from unfolding, as you can see in the title, unfolding the archives of the Institute of Theory and History of Architecture in Zurich, founded more or less 50 years ago, as you remember, with our archives, with the archive that we hold here in the Barcelona School of Architecture. As you know, this is an image from our facilities. Over the last 2 centuries, architectural schools have produced a diverse range of physical and digital materials, formats, and techniques that constitute a veritable transhistorical archaeology of the media. And the Barcelona School of Architecture has collected over the last 2 centuries more or less 180,000 registered items since it was created in 1817, between drawings, photographs, transcripts, models, audiovisuals, and of course plaster cuts by teachers from Antoni Celles to Rafael Moneo, and the exercise of architectural students such as Antoni Gaudí, for example, José Antonio Coderch, or Enric Miralles. All, of course, are subject of exchange, as you know, exchange networks with the European and the American schools that suggest, and this is the main thesis, of course, of our little talk, far-reaching interpretations for the future. You can see here a few examples of our archival holdings from the design exercise for obtaining the Bachelor of Architecture designed by Gaudí, the Paraninfo, until the PhD of Enric Miralles, now an exhibition in our halls, and you can check it, or other exercises used in the class of Rafael Moneo as chairman of Elements of Composition between 1971 and 1976. Following the footprints, of course, of these architects and professors, this talk is an attempt to restore architecture as an autonomous science, understanding that the shape of the city is not only the result of urban planning driving with the eternal laws of capitalism, but also the consequence of an architecture committed with the city and its main, of course, architectural school in the city, which is this, the example, the oldest one. And to start, I will make a play with the words and going back very long ago in the past. And I will quote this sentence of an architect poet, Nicolau Maria Rubio Tudori, who said, from time to time, Catalan, prudence closes its eyes and just lets things happen. This could be translated into the popular imagination into 2 words, same, which could mean more or less the sense, the reason, and rausha, raging fantasy. And this quote, as I said, belongs to the architect Rubio Tudori, who in 1932 defined the nature of all artistic creation are halfway between the prudence of reason and the wakefulness of a dream. Between the straight line, of course, and the curve, which is the subtitle of my little lecture, the architect's born of this tension can be grouped into kinds of presence, where the firm and the soft can be seen as expressions of changing wishes and ideas. The straight lines, as you will see, like Serdar Champla, tend to be manifestos. And the curves are created by genealogy, because architecture is a mute document of culture that is always awaiting for interpretation. So we need to come back to the origin, to Serdar extension, and this first step in our journey begins with this plan designed by the engineer, as you see in the Pont Serdar, who published in 1859, the project of Barcelona expansion, an operation that saw, as you can see, the city center to the districts in the plain, as well as we see in the topographical map that Serdar drew some years before. Serdar master plans orchestrates the growth of the new metropolis on the basis of a Cartesian, rational, right-angled plan characterized by its unique 45-degree cut corners that joins individuals to essential requirements, the place and the movement. Serdar was an urban planner, originally trained as a civil engineer. And at this time, grid or radial-based urban planning principles were being implemented only in New York, Buenos Aires, Paris, and London. Serdar then imagined for our city a new communication system, developing the urban urbanization as the main principle of this straight line manifesto. As you can see in this image, the 4 main avenues that cut the grid are Gran Via, Diagonal, Meridiana, and Sun Street. The area, however, did not develop, as you know, as Cerdà had originally planned, because as you can see, what began as an utopian master plan championing publicly accessible green space inside these courtyards has today become an enclosed and privatized neighborhood. Spread, of course, as you can see, the whole city. And another morphological characteristic of Cerdà expansion is its ambition to build a city with no prior image. And this is something very important. This was how the master builders constructed over 50 years the homogeneous, rational, and abstract image of our city, following closely the principle of typology as the main process to achieve it. And we must say that one of the most complete repertoires of the plans from the master builders is also held in our archive, as you can see. Straight lines had opened the way, and we can summarize these manifestos with the covers of these two magazines, where the systems of voids in the medieval cities compare with the abstract and virtual device of Cerdà's grid, capable of containing the whole world captive inside of it. This is comparative image. I think it's so much suggested for us. Arbour then, in our next step, takes off powerfully with Barcelona's 1880 World Fair, stating clearly its position against the legacy of straight lines of the Eixample masters. The buildings of, as you know, Josep Puig i Cadafalch, Lluís Domènech and Muntaner, and finally Antonio Gaudí, introduced the curve, bent line, as a sort of a subjective, empathetic, energetic, and vital flight against this Cartesian monotony. We can say it in this way. Gaudí, as you know, we hold also the Gaudí share in our school. Gaudí is considered one of the most important and famous architects of Catalan Art Nouveau movement. He developed his work at Barcelona and surroundings during the turn of the 19th century, and he had as clients the main bourgeoisie of the city and the Catholic Church. One of his most recognized and controversial works in Barcelona is the temple, as you know, the Holy Family, still under construction, unfortunately, and of course without no controversy. Gaudí's proposal for the environs, as you can see, of the Holy Temple are the first attempt to destroy the uniformity of the grid. Designing like a new star, as you can see, with infinite points that make visible the profile of the temple in a dynamic and circular point of view that surrounds the monument. And we hold them, all this material, as you can see also in the Gaudí chair archive in the Barcelona School of Architecture. 3 plans, this is the second one and this is the third one, with several configurations and new morphological shapes of these surroundings. The second attempt to restore a new order inside the straight line of the Eixample comes from the visionary metaphor, as you can see, of a mountain and a medieval castle in the middle of Passeig de Gràcia, in the main Burgos Avenue in the city. The aerial view insists, as you can see, here is the location. The aerial view, this one, insists in the singularity of his design for the 45-degree corners in the Eixample, a continuous wall, as you can see, curved, that embrace the adjacent houses and creates 2 interior courtyards to where the flats open up all the view. And of course, a singular, as you can see, top roof where chimneys and stairs finish this allegorical landscape. But looking carefully, and this is something very important to know the inside of this powerful image, to look carefully at the plans of this proposal, we discover a free plan with the steel structure of pillars with no structural walls. This structure gave a wide range, as you can see, of spatial solutions, where every room is unique and singular, and it moves toward a singular corridor around the courtyard. The same surprise we feel when we discover that the exterior, a magnificent wall that encloses the facade, is not structural. It is a curtain wall. where every single piece of stone is suspended by the metal steel structure. So an iron structure that you can recognize here, which remains now invisible, and it's covered by stone cladding, plasticas, like the image from the construction site. It's revealing to us. And this is the garage of the Pedrera. But the question is, what was Gaudí intentions? Recalling the whole universe of images like these ones that we here see. He bequeathed something crucial for the new generations of architects, the power, as Carlos Crosa said, of interpreting images, of interpreting the reality. Not only questioning the critical impact of his works by the audience, as you can see from these amazing satirical magazines, where the house is seen as a bunker, as a den, as a garage for Zeppelins, as one of the most disgusting critics of these times, but also by painters, photographers, architects, and poets. The same age-old spirit runs through the pages of the magazine. See Documentos de Actividad Contemporánea, documents of contemporary activity, used by the rationalist architects of the GATPA, which it means is a group of Spanish artists and technicians for the progress of contemporary architecture. And in the number, as you can see, 17 in 1935, they compare the profile and finish of one of the chimneys, as you can see here, on the top roof of the Pedrera, with the soft organic shapes there on the right, of items from nature photographed by Josep Sala. In the GATPA, in this avant-garde group, the architect José Luis Sert, as you know, was the lead figure. Sert was a Spanish architect and scenic planner born in Barcelona in 1901 and the promoter of the avant-garde arrival to Spain. Thanks to a democratic and progressive government of the Second Republic that developed the modernity through the relationship between architecture, society, and politics. In the spring, as you can recognize in this spread wall photograph of 1932, Barcelona was to become the capital of European modernity by hosting the preliminary meeting of the Fourth International Congress of Modern Architecture, which at that time was still meant to take place in Moscow. The political condition of Spain offered European architects a stimulated field of war based on the reformist ideas of the Republic and its determination to change life. The meeting, which spawned the Plan Macià, brought together architects, as you can see, as Le Corbusier, Siegfried Giedion, José Luis Sert, or Bartel Gropius. The event also served as a platform for dissemination of the ideas presented at the third Theam in Brussels, which studied the subdivision of the cities. And finally, the fourth Theam, this is quite a brief summary of the history of the Theam. I'm so sorry about it, but it's just to make things in place. The fourth Theam took place on board a trip, the Paris to Bonn for Greece, for Marseille. And there, at the meeting, the GATPAC was to present its analysis of Barcelona by means of series of panels that are now at the Institute, your Institute of History and Theory of Architecture in Zurich. The historic city, you see it here in yellow, the Podamic grid of Ildefonso Cerdà, and finally the formless city of the industrial periphery in red. With the aim of making 19th century Barcelona think of the past, the GATPAC gave form to a new city, which we see here in a panoramic vision with no monuments or exceptions, and where architecture is presented in absolute terms as the force capable of building the political city and its urbanized extension. A diorama that imagined at its completeness as an idea, in the same way that the three Urbino panels attributed to the school of Piero della Francesca did centuries ago. An image which the avant-garde and its nostalgia, of course, for the past, renewed the idea of urban design that Leon Battista Alberti recognized when interpreting a house in the city and a city in a house, in a powerful interescalar balance. And we can recognize this mediation between this case in this well-known quote from the Reedificatoria from the chapter 9 of book 1 of the treatise. Okay. In this new Barcelona, a distributed zoning defined each of the new complemented sector of the functional city, which, to quote Hannah Arendt, address the three spheres of human condition: the labor, the work, and the action, the movement, the displacement. The urbanization of housing proposed, as you see, a new model of 400 meters, and this is much connected with the ideas that Professor Carlos Rosas has presented you just a few minutes ago. 400 meters, as opposed to Cerdà's initial 130 meters layout. This was the basis of the Redent rearrangement, which Le Corbusier called Le Carré Espagnol, the Spanish street. Integration, as you can see all these panels, when you come back to your city, you can check it from the archives, and this is some kind of beautiful journey from two you can do between both cities. And integration and closure were not a consequence of each other, but rather two simultaneous phenomena that were reinforced by the idea of nature, as we see in the floor plan of Casa Bloc, here on the left of the image, one of the most important social housing projects of the GATPAC, built in the city of Barcelona during the Democratic Second Republic. It was to occupy, as you can see, the front cover of the issue 11 of EC Magazine, beneath a heading that recovered the spirit also of Siegfried Gideon's liberated women. And inside the magazine, the layout is presented also as a model to reform the old Battle Street block of Cerdà, as we see in this sequence. And on this model, as you can see, for the new Barcelona waterfront, which is occupying, as you can see, the territories, the setup that was developed for the Olympic Village in the late 90s. A ground floor also on pilotis, as you can see from this material, which is hold this one in the historic archive of the Col·legi d'Arquitectes de Catalunya. A ground floor on pilotis creates an artificial device where collective services, such as nurseries, laundries, or libraries, define a new infrastructure, half nature and half architecture. The 207 subsistence units form the largest housing complex in Europe in 1933, and this is a maximum record Guinness that we have. It's the biggest one. It's bigger than Nanconfin, and it's bigger than any one of the several social housing plan areas that, for example, Max Ernst developed in Frankfurt or in Berlin during these years. Evoking, of course, the Corbusier trials in the Ville Contemporaine of 3 million d'habitants, where each apartment had the best daylighting conditions possible, and it also includes two plazas that mediated between the postal of Avinguda Torras de Bages and the communal entrance to the block. In Casa Bloc, as you can see, an interior street leads to each of the 60 square meters duplex cells, whose structure of metal feed allows a variable compartmentation of between 1 and 4 rooms. Also, this is an incredible advantage, between 1 and 4 rooms, following this strict, and modular steel frame structure. It was built by means of collective association, also, such as the Institute Against the Forced Employment, with metal structure, brick facings and air cavity, stairways with Catalan and tile walls, and brick arc floor slabs that represented the boundaries from which the 5 points of architecture of Le Corbusier were built using a technology readapted to traditional local systems. And the final images, balconies, galleries, porches, and walls in a gorgeous open to the city, ground floors on pilotis were the elements of compartition that define the complex balance between the individual and the collective in a relationship that returned every cell to the street from where it came. A house, and this is a very beautiful metaphor, a house, a city, as Leon Battista Alberti would remark, a manifesto, as you can see, another manifesto in this journey of the straight line. But after, as you can imagine, things didn't go well with the civil war in Spain. And after the end of the Spanish Civil War, Serre returned from his New York exile to visit Barcelona only in 1946. So more or less between these two images, there is a gap of 10 years, and is the consequence of the dictatorship of Franco. The defeat had removed from their public post all those Gaspar architects who were still alive. When Serre arrived to our city, he met with his friends. We see it here in these images. The friends were Joan Miró or Picasso. And they decided to do something very important for our intention to understand, for example, the myth of Gaudí nowadays, currently, what happened in this journey coming back from New York of Serre to Barcelona in 1946. They decided to bring new air and fresh light to the gray landscape of the dictatorship of Franco, reinventing the figure of Antonio Gaudí. So this is a strategy of the avant-garde to things that, and to express the volunteer, to realize that the modernity did not begin with, of course, the avant-garde, with the Republican ones. Modernity started years ago with Gaudí, who, as you know, had no previous ideology that could be suggested as a liberal one of a radical one, like, for example, the ideology of the one. So, how was able Serre to do that? Coming from New York, Serre already knew of Gaudí's importance on the American continent through the initiative of Dalí, who had instead of the present and the presence of the genius of Gaudí in the exhibition Dada, Surrealist and Fantastic Art held in 1936 in the Museum of Modern Art in MoMA in New York. Through Dalí, Gaudí occupies a place among the surrealist icons and, of course, among the iconography of the painter Salvador Dalí. And I want to also quote and recover this famous sentence of the painter saying, "Beauty will be edible or will not exist." And the comparison, of course, between these edible forms of the Pedrera with these other edible forms that you hear from the right side. His shapes, as you can see, were interpreted as images of a primitive and heroic nature associated with artists like Miró and, for example, also the Dawalsep group. There is a very beautiful and famous painting of Antonio Tapias, one of the integrated of the Dawalsep group, that shows a Gaudí observing us from the underground and signaling upwards with the twisting sticks of 7 knots. The snake and 7 knots belong fully to the eternal symbolism of knowledge and intelligence. And with the other hand, as you can see, this immortal Gaudí is pointing upwards toward the temple of the Holy Family, you can see here. And it seems that a current of energy connects the architect's hand and the temple, like saying the temple, it's mine. From the center of the earth, from his tomb, Gaudí summoned the wisdom of a complete and unfinished building. This is a revival that inspired the members of the group Dawalsep in 1949 in a photography session in front of the bench, as you can see, of the Parkway. And as well in 1950, when the poet Juan Eduardo Cirlot publishes the book The Art of Gaudí, in which his bench becomes, and I quote, a balustrade shaped like the shape of a snake. Cirlot finishes with a strange sentence to describe Gaudí's work. And Gaudí, it seems like more or less a strange figure. Around him, there is something like a back presence of lions. And this is the lions that emerge from, as you can see, this bended Doric entablature that finishes all the profile of the bench of Parkway. And the same waves, of course, that run through the architects, José Antonio Coder, the author of our main extension, CD, you can see here. It's incredible to see how Gaudí, Coder, all these legacies connected with our school, and you can rediscover this legacy through your stay these days. As I said, the same waves that run through the architect José Antonio Coder's first international building, you can see here, the Spanish pavilion at the 1951 Milan Triennale, waves that brought together on a table, bench, the work of Gaudí, together with the work of Picasso and also Miró. Who was Coder? The author of the extension of our building here, which is more or less like a cave for the ideas with no exterior, only an interior. Coder was recognized as one of the most important post-war architects in Barcelona. He worked for the dictatorship of Franco. This is something that we must remember during the 40s. And in the 50s and 60s and 70s, his work revealed the limitations of public administration trying to manage the growth of the city under speculation. But now I don't want to talk about these public commissions, but of the importance and influence of Joan Miró's imaginaries in one of his best houses, designed in 1951, which is called the Casa Ugalde. At the left, you can see the mural of the Catalan Reaper exhibit in the pavilion of the Spanish Republic in the International Fair of Paris, designed by Sir Luis da Casa. Meanwhile, at the right, you discover the poetic of the bended line as the origin for the Ugalde master plan. Just as without Gaudí, we could be unable to follow the trail of buildings such as the Cochera housing complex, which is very close here, just 2 stops from the tram, or the Trade towers here, also very close to our school, and here the shapes you can recognize now, the shape of our extension of our school. Design, it is one of the last designs of José Antonio Coder, and in fact, he died in 1984 without finishing the project and without seeing the opening of the school. So this is a project that his son Gustavo completed during these years. Change the scale, like Carlos Cossons did, to see the complete image of this city that we have just been surrounding during the 20s in this scale, because the Barcelona General Metropolitan Plan of 1976 had presented the city from a global point of view that integrated the towns of the periphery and recalls the panoramic vision launched by the avant-garde half a century before. But as you can imagine, without placing architecture maybe at the center of the discussion, the dictatorship of Franco thought and imagined Barcelona only as an industrial city, where the absence of a general architectural master plan placed for almost 40 years economy and savage social housing state promoting as the main two issues to address. The 1986 decision to hold the next Olympic Games in Barcelona again placed the city on a global stage, where it could redefine its own shape through another manifesto of straight lines, just as that did in 1859, some years ago. The master plan, designed, as Carlos Closa said, by the office MBM, or Martorell, Boegas, and Meiki, settled the intervention areas, these new areas of centralization. You can see and recognize it here in this pink color, where it could redefine its own shape through another manifesto of straight lines and putting the periphery now in the center of discussion. It was, of course, a great opportunity and a challenge that the city had to transform radically several parts that had been abandoned for decades. And I am talking about, for example, the slum areas that still remain at Montjuic and the waterfront that you see in these unbelievable images. So this is the shape of Barcelona, the waterfront of Barcelona before 1992. In relation with these areas of new centrality, we must continue our discussion about the narrative of the straight and the bent line student, an international competition for a huge commercial area here along the side of Diagonal Avenue, that also you can rediscover from 3 stops from the town here. A contest that finally won the couple of architects, Manuel de Solá-Morales and Rafael Moneo. Rafael Moneo, born in Tudela in 1937, is the first, as you know, Spanish architect who has won the Pritzker Prize in 1996 and the Riva Royal Gold Medal in 2003. He was also, and this is very important for our archive, professor of the Barcelona School of Architecture between 1971 and 76, and his commitment with the theory and history of architecture has made his professional career a singular testimony to understand the practice of the discipline with works in Spain, the United States, Sweden, or Belgium. In Barcelona, he, together with Solá-Morales, show us how different a shopping mall could be, attending to these requirements. A unitary building with a 400 meters long facade, that is known here in Barcelona as the horizontal skyscraper. You can see here from this rear point of view. The building could occupy a huge empty plot as a property investment, joining several landowners in the post-Olympic Barcelona. The urban plan shows in black how the Illa, which is the popular known to recognize it, shows a boundary location between the low density here buildings of the historic neighborhoods of Las Corts and the high density here towers and skyscrapers along the side of Diagonal Avenue. So this is more or less like another corner. I don't know if we can see it in this way. Carlos Cosa says yes. And this point of the lecture, as you can see, is much connected with the previous lecture one. The rear side is fragmented into several units joined in a continuous vision with the environs, while the front side to Diagonal embraces a facade that gives a monumental aesthetic to the void. But its reference, as you can see, also comes from very far away in space and time. The Rockefeller Center, as the author Rafael Moneo explains, represents the paradigm of the American skyscraper, set back its profile to adapt its shapes to the zoning law of 1916, a law in Manhattan that required to all skyscrapers to allow light enter the interior of the downtown. And if you can see also the comparison, I like this, I love this comparison between the Illa and the Rockefeller Center, because we compare the invisible internal layouts of all the routes and itineraries that comprise its relationship with the city and its continuous flows and movements. Flows that makes its perimeter something porous with the life of the city and its pedestrian avenues and traffic. And this section, as you can see, show us. The shopping mall that we recognize in this very beautiful drawing of Carmen Rivas, it's recognized also like the building with no name, like Solá-Morales and Moneo used to do. The Illa is just a place. It has no name. Because you can see here in La Illa, yes, a hotel, a supermarket, offices, so many facilities, shopping mall, also a sports center. So many functions that does not allow to the author to give a proper name to it. So this is, I think, that the most beautiful drawing down by Carmen Rivas, where the void there is the main character of the building. And capitalism, as we know, makes the solid dissolve in the earth, as Marx announced. Another paradox comes when we realize that from the Diagonal Avenue, either as pedestrians or as car drivers, we can never see its global vision, only in foreshortening. So in this passing way. But despite this, the exquisite detail that defines the window as the minimum unit of meaning insists now again in another interescalar balance that we are looking for during all this talk. And to end, finally, the other game's legacy together with these new areas of centrality is the Olympic Village, a Cartesian project that shaped the waterfront of the city, opening to the sea, finally. If you compare both profiles, you can imagine how much long it takes to make the ideas come true. In the Olympic Village, the work of architects such as Enric Miralles also and Carme Pinós, it runs with the force of renovating energy and renovating energy of poetics, like in the Carrier roof. Here you can see this intervention of Miralles and Pinós. Enric Miralles was a passionate admirer of Gaudí, and he shared with the surrealists not just an imaginative vision intrinsic to the culture of Art Nouveau, but also their techniques as well. Miralles looked at Hillot, at Dalí, at Marc Sens, and used his techniques, for example, the frottage, as you can see in this image from Miro's doing in progress testing the materials, and also in this papier déchiré, the Hansard, the scouting papers that makes new forms from surrealism, imagined from this black background. And this could be also seen, as you can imagine, also like the process that Miralles used to do, cutting papers, putting one beneath the other, making forms appear just using the frottage. This could be more or less the technique used to reveal the forms of one of the masterpieces of Enric Miralles and Carme Pinós, which is the Symmetry of Igualada. A symmetry whose section, here see the couple, is the same as in Gaudí's Parkwell. You can see here the same shape. And just as water, origin of life, is the design center element here in the cemetery, also is the design center element in the hypostyle hall of the Parkwell. In Igualada, and this is coming to an end, the square where the flotsam of float appears is head up. Miralles said, and we can read it, I am really fascinated by how Gaudí manages to make water run through the park, the parkway, creating from its roots buildings, fountains, statues, snakes that spit water. The water course managed to suggest the idea of almost transparent flow, almost a transparent flow, like the one we can see here. The water is transparent and its limits are always just out of reach, like dreams. Water bends any straight line, returning it to its natural condition, which is energy. In Barcelona, the interiors of Miralles' own house reform in the old city contain also water, as Gaudí also did. Miralles said, inside, and I quote, the walls are painted with plastic paint in various hues of white to accompany the entry of light, like waves you can see here. And when a hand steers the water, when we are in a swimming pool, waves. A poetic that the architect recalled at Marqués Street in the Passage de la Pau, or in the design of the Serpentinato and projection in profile of the roof proposed for the renovation of the old Santa Caterina market in the old city, as you can see here before the intervention of Miralles. And we have come to the origin, to the old city, so we are doing a focus on a very, very concrete detail to finish. The old city constrained in the medieval walls, city made by overlapping the layouts of time, ruins, and memory. A city that struggles to preserve its past, suffering so much the political decisions to remove and demolishing portions of it, always underestimating the past as something church of future. The Santa Catarina market was built in the first half of the 19th century on the foundations of a cemetery and of an ancient convent that had the same name. Miralles and Benedetta Tagliabue, his second wife, only designed for this refurbishment, only designed a roof. Only a roof, like Baltard did the same in Les Halles in Paris. A roof that had to continue over the Campo Avenue, like a dancer shelter of shadows that you can see here. And a project that was never, as you can see, finished. The picture of the architect in front of the basalt columns of Gaudí crypt well, which never put in place because also the crypt well was also an unfinished project of Gaudí, left unfinished in 1916, show us again Miralles questioning the master's legacy. It's here, looking at this, the remaining, yes, of any construction which is never finished. Like a ring, and this is the most important thing, the value of passage of time, the struggle that matters has to undertake which ideas so that architecture can redeem this from their condition. And we could finish as we started, having recourse to poets, philosophers, and architects, imagining the shape of the city so that our voyage here in your state never ends. There is no possible piece of perfection. Friedrich Nietzsche outlined this in his PhD thesis on undoing the boundaries between the two brothers, between Apollo and Dionysus. The monolithic Doric column of the park well at the hypostyle hall must resist the thrust inflicted, as you can see, on them by the waves of a playful, fragmented, and colorful serpent. There is nothing fixed in the world, however much we architects set our minds to achieve some certainty. The movement of the bench is this reflection, the same play of contrast that Miralles achieves between the profile of the Santa Catarina roof and its monolithic pre-existing wall that serves as its support. A never-ended project which echoes strange the interpretation of the architecture of the city by means of unfolding not only the material which is still hidden in so many boxes and folds, but also another possible history of ideas that in fact is the most dangerous one that we are committed to do as architects. Thank you very much for your attention. I know it's quite impossible to summarize over 150 years of history of architecture, but I tried to do through these 4 main episodes. So I think you have enjoyed, and now you can see our city with another eyes, which was the main objective of the talk, to give new ideas, to address new challenges, to interpret the reality. Thank you very much for your attention.
Quite nicely, Carolina Estevez from the theory department. Thank you very much. Now, meanwhile, Enrique Granade prepares his PowerPoint. You can have water in time now. You have some bottles of water there here if you need. And also, there's a little bathroom getting out from that door. Just in front, you see 2 places bathroom. Here with us, here is el PowerPoint. Yes, PowerPoint.
Sí, bueno, ¿en cuál de ellos? Sí que hay, sí. Tarda unos segundos.
Una historia diagonal. Te veo por imágenes que las voy pasando. Y te lo copio. Bueno, sí.
Nice connection.
I mean, it's so condensed. I cannot
Yeah.
understand how to say something that you can say, okay, this
Para que se vea todo como lo hacéis, sin créditos.
Who are talking about maybe research without such tools nowadays. Still the same. As the
Ah, vale, aquí.
really bad with the animal field ritual.
Bonjour, nous nous sommes rencontrés. Oui, je vais parler en français. J'espère que ça va pas vous ennuyer. Je vais expliquer l'histoire de la diagonale, la part haute de la diagonale. Ce plan, je crois que vous l'avez déjà vu aujourd'hui. C'est le plan original de Cerda. Et le plan original de Cerda finit là, dans notre cas. Ça, c'est la fin de la ville à l'époque. Mais Cerda a fait des lignes pointeuses. Il a prolongé cette avenue à nulle part. Il a enfin que c'est inconnu. Cette situation va se prolonger. Et si on voit aujourd'hui une photo aérienne, on voit que l'avenue jusqu'à la place Frances Macias, c'est où la finit Cerda, a un caractère différent de celle qu'il y a à nous. On voit que c'est une urbanisation différente. Et aussi, il y a un grain de la ville qui est aussi différente. Mais ça, ce n'est pas en planification accomplie d'un principe, sinon que c'est une chose qu'on va voir, que c'est une chose contradictoire. On a trouvé ça à la fin, comme on la voit aujourd'hui, avec beaucoup d'interventions différentes. À cause de l'exposition internationale de 1929, avec le pavillon de Mies que vous avez sûrement vu ce jour-là, l'haute bourgeoisie catalane a décidé d'offrir au roi un palais à Barcelone. C'est pour ça que cette bourgeoisie, qui avait des propriétés hors la ville, a offert ce palais au roi. Ce palais au roi, ici en face, c'est ici en face de nous, mais vous voyez qu'il n'existe rien plus que le palais. C'est tout vide, il n'y a rien que la pavimentation de la diagonale et la porte du palais. À côté, vous regardez les rois, on a fait une caserne. La caserne que vous avez là, vous pouvez la voir ici en arrière, c'est le seul des pièces qu'il y avait. Et si on voit les plans, on voit Barcelone. Et là-bas, à droite, il y a seulement la ligne verte sur les trottoirs et les palais où nous irons après avoir un petit ouvrage de Miralles. Et ça, c'est tout ce qu'il avait. 1929. Il y a eu une intention de la haute bourgeoisie de se placer aux côtés du roi. Et il a apparu seulement une petite palais. Ça, c'est l'architecture qui se faisait à Barcelone à l'année 30. Ça, c'est la nouvelle architecture académique. On s'est la revue, on dit comme ça. C'est une petite palais qui existe encore un peu plus bas. C'est la seule opération. La diagonale était encore vide. Aux années 30, à Barcelone, il y a un groupe d'architectes qui est en contact avec l'orthodoxie moderne, avec le Corbusier. Et ça, c'est Joseph Buesser, c'est le chef de ces architectes. Et ils ont découvert la ville. Aux années 30, c'est l'époque de la ville, l'époque de l'architecture, c'est déjà faite, et c'est l'époque de la ville. Et ces architectes vont proposer l'occupation totale de la diagonale avec un système de ville radieuse. Un système où il n'y a pas de rue, il y a de verre avec les blocs des habitations. Et ça, c'est un projet que ce n'est pas le seul aux années 30. Il y a notre architecte à Madrid, qui s'appelle Zuazo, qui a fait la prolongation de la Castellana. Il a essayé de faire pareil à Barcelone. Ça, c'est une autre proposition différente de celle de Siam, de celle des architectes de Gatbach. C'est une proposition plus proche à celle de Vienne, à celle de l'Hof, avec les rues qui percent les blocs, etc. Ça, c'est ce qui s'est passé à Barcelone seulement comme projet avant l'année 36, l'année qui commence la guerre civile. À la fin de la guerre, les chars de combat de Franco ont entré par la diagonale. Ça, c'est la photo de l'entrée des chars. Ils ont décidé de bâtir un bâtiment représentatif de l'occupation de Barcelone. Et ce bâtiment, c'est contradictoire. Bon, ce qu'il avait à l'époque de l'entrée des chars, ça c'est une photo un peu plus moderne, mais jusqu'aux années 50, c'était ça. Ça, c'est la place Francis Macià, ça, c'est le palais royal, c'est tout vide, presque tout vide. Parce que c'est vide, pourquoi? Parce que cette ligne, c'est au milieu de deux petites villes qui sont Las Corts à gauche et Sarrià à droite, et ça, c'est le dos de ces deux villes, ce n'est pas la face. Et c'est pour ça que c'est vide encore. Les officiers de Franco ont bâti ces bâtiments. Très contradictoire, vous pouvez les voir encore. C'est ici en face de Corte Inglés, parce que c'est une publication de l'époque. On voit un bâtiment qu'on ne sait pas à quel langage parle, mais ce qu'on voit, la trace sur la plante, on peut voir que c'est pas un bâtiment normal dans ce qu'on appelle l'architecture de Franco. Les officiers qui ont fait ces bâtiments, ils étaient anciens associés du Gatbach. Et ce qu'ils ont fait, si vous voyez ces plantes, ça vous souvenez quelque chose? Ça, c'est le plan du Bauhaus. Ce qu'ils ont fait, c'est un bâtiment franquiste. Ils ne sortent jamais plus dans les histoires de l'architecture franquiste, mais ils ont profité, c'est le premier. Il n'y avait pas encore de dictamen sur la théorie de l'architecture franquiste. Ils ont fait quelque chose comme le Bauhaus. Par contre, on m'a amené en face du palais de la Ralbette, le palais du roi, le palais de Franco, à partir de maintenant, ils ont fait les monuments aux morts de la guerre. Ça, c'est l'antidote de celle des officiers qui sont fait. Maintenant, c'est démonté, c'est fini ça. Qu'est-ce qu'il y avait dans ces terrains vagues de la diagonale? Il y avait des choses drôles. Il avait c'était une aventure pour la haute bourgeoisie. Il y avait des voitures, mais il n'y avait nulle part pour visiter. Il faisait seulement un trajet de 300-500 mètres pour aller les boîtes, les salles de fête, qui ont proliféré dans cette part de la ville aux années 40. Cortijo, Cosalera, il y avait plusieurs de cet endroit où la bourgeoisie haute faisait ses fêtes. Il faisait aussi des choses aussi drôles, comme faire un grand prix sur une terrain vague, c'est la meilleure place pour le faire, avec cette course de voitures. Ça, à Noyer, on a fait voir la mairie qu'il faisait, il fallait faire quelque chose de planifié. Ça, c'est les photoplans de l'année 47. Vous voyez comme la diagonale, nous sommes là. Ça, c'est le palais du roi. Ça, c'est Francesc Macià. Et vous voyez la Corse. Et vous voyez Sarrià comme en gros le village. Et on arrive vers la diagonale. Qu'est-ce qu'on va faire ici? On va planifier quelque chose. Ça, c'est les plans de 47 de la mairie de Barcelone. Qu'est-ce qu'il propose? Il propose de faire une solution avec des îlots fermés, avec des monumentalisations des endroits où il y a les bâtiments publics. Et si on voit la perspective, une des perspectives qui ont été faites, on trouve une ville qui ne se ressemble jamais à Barcelone. Ça semble Berlin, les Francis, semble quelque chose comme ça. Ça a été oublié. Et à l'année 52, c'est le ministère national de l'éducation qui a pris le contrôle de l'air et a proposé de faire la cité universitaire là. Pour ça, la première chose qu'il a fait, c'est choisir un architecte académique. Et l'architecte académique a présenté son projet. Ça, c'était la ville universitaire telle qu'il devait être là en face. Donc là, sur nous, ce sont les différentes facultés dressées dans ces complexes monumentaux. Mais à la fois, l'histoire, c'est difficile à classer. Il se sont passées des choses très importantes à Barcelone, à l'Espagne et aussi à l'architecture mondiale. L'architecture brésilienne, l'architecture américaine qui est venue à Barcelone avec l'exposition de 55, les visites des architectes importants, je peux dire Bruno Fevi, Alvarado ont visité Barcelone et on a fait beaucoup de bruit qui a concentré dans un groupe d'architectes. Si on a dit avant la guerre, il y avait les GATFAC. Après la guerre, à partir de l'année 51, il y a les groupes R. Ce sont les architectes des groupes R. On ne va pas les nommer maintenant, mais ce sont celles qui ont participé parce que l'échec de ces projets académiques qu'on vient de voir, il est substitué par une possibilité de faire des concours. Effectivement, ça c'est l'ère où nous sommes. Il y a la part basse de la diagonale, la part haute. Dans la part basse, on doit faire la faculté de sciences et le collège des étudiants. On a fait des concours. Si on voit les concours, c'est l'architecture moderne qui est présentée. Mais à la part basse, ils ont fait, les autorités, ils n'étaient pas encore convaincus de l'architecture moderne, ils ont donné les second prix et les tertiaires prix, pas les premiers. Et ça a fait quoi? Si on voit ces projets, le projet de Boigas, par exemple, c'était un bâtiment tout à fait tout court brésilien, avec même le jardin, même tout ça. Le projet de Corrales de Molesun, architecte très connu de Madrid, région, à l'époque. On n'a fait rien. Les autorités, il n'y avait pas de premier prix. Ils ont décidé de faire ça. Et c'est ça qu'on a fait. Ils ont oublié l'architecture moderne, appelé un architecte pendant la guerre, un architecte très vieux à l'époque. Il a fait ce complexe qui est à la part basse de la diagonale. À la part haute, les choses ont changé à partir de 1958. En Espagne, il y a les plans de stabilisation. Ils ont accédé au pouvoir des choses de politiques différentes de l'opposé. Et ils ont décidé que l'Espagne devait être moderne. C'est une condition internationale, un devoir de la patrie. Ça a comme conséquence à la part haute de la diagonale, le suivant concours est gagné par bâtiment moderne. Ça, c'est le premier prix et c'est le second prix des bâtiments de la part haute. Le premier, c'est le de Javier Carvajal, vous pouvez le voir là. C'est pas à la place où il devait être construit, il devait être construit un peu plus en bas, mais on a mis des roues, et on l'a fait rouler par la diagonale, on l'a construit ici avec notre disposition. C'est le bâtiment italien, le bâtiment Ficini Pollini, BBPR, on pourrait parler longuement de ces bâtiments, mais il ne faut pas maintenant croire. Et à sa place, à la place où il devait occuper, a été bâti le premier bâtiment métallique, le premier bâtiment moderne métallique de la cité universitaire, que c'est la faculté de droit. La faculté de droit, c'est un bâtiment dont on n'avait vu jamais à Barcelone une construction comme ça. C'est en 1959, c'est pas tellement loin. Et ça, c'est le bâtiment qui est à la ligne de l'école de Smithson, de Charles James, de tout ça, ce qu'on connaît déjà. Ça, c'est le premier bâtiment moderne, important, parce qu'il est inauguré par Franco même. Franco a dit cette fameuse phrase, c'est un fonctionnel très beau. Tout ce qu'il a dit, c'est ça, mais c'est la acquisition par part du régime de l'architecture moderne. Maintenant, nous allons voir notre ère. Nous sommes là. Et notre chance, c'est pas très bonne. Ça, c'est les premiers projets de ce qu'on appelait les complexes techniques artistiques. Ça, c'est la diagonale. Notre école, c'était pas ici. C'était un peu retrait parce qu'il y avait une place postérieure avec un musée. Une composition absolument académique, avec ces axes, ces bâtiments, ces portiques. Ça, c'est la place où la voiture rassemble chez Fantasmagorique. Ça, c'était notre école à l'époque, 56-56. Ça, c'est cette époque. Finalement, ce projet n'a varié et s'est glissé. Ça, c'est où nous sommes maintenant. C'est ce bâtiment-là. Le complexe a changé, mais c'est l'école où nous sommes maintenant. La Barcelone un peu vide encore. À côté, un peu plus de chance, a fait l'école des ingénieurs. C'est un peu plus en bas. Ces bâtiments, bien sûr, si on voit la forme des bâtiments là, ou c'est une version de Niemeyer du palais de congrès de Brasilia. Bon, ça c'est un bâtiment métallique qui est très endommagé maintenant. mais c'est notre voisin. En face, on a suivi avec l'architecture moderne les mêmes architectes qui ont fait la faculté de droit. On a bâti 10 ans plus tard ces bâtiments, que c'est en béton, c'est préfabriqué, vous l'avez ici en face. Et c'est la fin de l'architecture moderne à la cité universitaire pour le moment. Parce que des architectes, bueno, ça c'est la même faculté, des architectes très mauvais ont occupé la place, ont gagné la place de ce concours et on a fait la deuxième faculté qui est en bas, c'est un bâtiment très laid. C'est un bâtiment très mal compris l'architecture moderne, mais c'était l'architecture moderne qui avait pris la place des architectes officiels. Et qu'est-ce qu'il s'est passé avec les autres secteurs de la diagonale? Parce qu'on a parlé de la cité universitaire, mais la mairie a eu des différents architectes, des différents groupes d'architectes qui ont fait tellement de plans qu'on n'a pas tout compris, mais on a distribué des blocs, on a fait de la géométrie de ces petits modèles qui aujourd'hui sont aussi à la vague de toutes les écoles d'architecture avec des petites coupes et des petites pièces. Et on a placé des bâtiments qu'on n'avait pas de place à Barcelone. Un grand hôtel. Barcelone n'avait pas un grand hôtel. Il y avait des petites pièces, mais ici, on a eu la possibilité de faire un grand hôtel. Nulle part, à la diagonale. On a fait des expériments des bâtiments hauts, d'habitation. Les bâtiments de l'Atalaya avec son ancien gros restaurant à la Paroute et aussi placé à la diagonale. Et aux années 70, il y a eu la possibilité, le rêve, d'avoir un nouveau centre important à Barcelone. Et on a bâti, José Antonio Coder, je crois que Carolina vous a parlé de ces bâtiments de Coder, des bâtiments Trade, les gros magasins, le Corte Inglés, la Caixa, un autre banque important. En face, aussi la Banca Catalana, disparue déjà. C'est le premier bâtiment vert de Barcelone. Ça, c'est le nouveau centre. Vous pouvez voir le Trade, le Corte Inglés. Tout ça a changé maintenant. Il y a des choses qui n'étaient pas tellement mauvais dessinées dans ce bâtiment. La Caixa, c'est le jeu entre la recte et la courbe, ce qu'on vient de vous expliquer. La ligne qui fait les tours. Le bâtiment vert de Tous et Fargas, c'est presque comme aujourd'hui, mais il a changé le nom de l'entreprise, c'est une autre chose. C'est un bâtiment très intéressant, si vous voulez le voir après. Et la dernière place qui restait vide, c'était une ancienne pièce religieuse, un couvent religieux qui vient de disparaître. Et il y a déjà, à la fin du XXe siècle, qui a fait un gros concours pour bâtir ça. Et c'est Raphaël Moneo qui a gagné ce concours. Et ça, c'est comment on peut dire ça, on peut décider que c'est la conclusion de toute cette discussion. Qu'est-ce qu'il fallait? Il fallait avoir une rue avec une alignation. Et ça, c'est le langage qui parle la IA. La IA, c'est un jeu d'architecture. Il parle du bloc moderne, mais c'est un bloc descommunal, c'est un bloc avec une dimension qui parle surtout à la ville. La ville devait avoir une ligne qui n'en a eu pas, parce que tout ce qu'on a fait à la diagonale, tout ce qu'on a vu dans ces petites conférences, ce sont des choses que ceux qui ont fait, c'est recevoir les petits villages qui étaient en arrière et qui finalement ont arrivé à la diagonale. La première rangée est pleine, il fallait faire la deuxième, la troisième rangée. Ça, c'est ce que s'est passé dans notre université. Nous sommes ici, ça c'est l'école d'architecture, l'école d'ingénieurs. On a constitué l'université polytechnique, qui n'existait pas avant, et la place qu'on devait avoir, c'était occupée par des autres facultés, et on a eu l'obligation de chercher une place, non, en troisième rangée. C'est la part haute de cette ligne que vous voyez à nous, c'est le campus nord, que vous pouvez le voir ici à la fin. Et ça, c'est la petite histoire de la diagonale. Très vite, parce que je sais que vous êtes fatigués. Si vous voulez quelque chose, des explications supplémentaires, je peux vous la faire tout de suite.
Seulement pour comprendre encore, il n'existait jamais un plan de développer la diagonale comme une boulevard inverse de Paris ou quelque chose. Alors c'était vraiment une diagonale dans la ville.
Oui.
Et puis on a remplacé plus ou moins,
on a rempli.
on a même pensé comme
Et dans des petites interventions, parce qu'il n'y a eu pas une intervention trop grande. Il y a toujours des expériments. C'est la venue des expériments.